to Real Talk Family Life, building shatterproof families one brick at a time. And we are so delighted that you're here with us this evening. This is the first Saturday in October, and we are ready to get started. Our topic for this evening is preparing for senior years. Preparing for senior years, and this is the first part of that series. And we're asking you to reach out to your family members, friends, neighbors, loved ones, those who are interested in having a conversation with us today about the topic of preparing for senior years, and to ask them to join us because we have lots to talk about today. I think, Pastor Henry, you're working on getting us connected. Are we connected?
Yes, Dr. Neff,
I
we are
can hear
connected.
you.
Yeah, we
Wonderful.
are streaming, yes.
Wonderful. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about what our objectives are for this program today. And there are three of them. The first one, we want to we want you to know that we want you as a listener, as a participant in this program, to understand the importance of committing to the following. And while you prepare for the life, for those of us who have been, gosh, blessed to live a life of almost to or beyond our 10, that there are some things that we want to prepare for. And the first one is that maintaining health is very important. The health and well-being of our aged loved one is very important. We want to understand that, the importance of that. Secondly, we want to understand that staying mentally active while we are learning and growing and aging with hobbies and social engagement and things of that nature are also very important to maintaining the health and well-being that we're talking about. And finally, we want to be able to understand that developing coping strategies for the changes that we will endure while we're aging and developing, how we can prepare for those changes, as well as the potential of losing a loved one or loneliness that comes with aging. So I am your host for this evening, Patricia Knapp, and we have a wonderful panel that will be helping us to have this discussion. And as we hang on one second for me, there's something on my screen that is preventing me from seeing you guys. As we continue, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, and we have Dr. Bishop Garvin Garraway as one of our panelists. We also have Pastor Henry as one of our panelists this evening. And Pastor Henry, did we add Dr. King?
Dr. King is on in my place this evening.
All right, Doctor. I was hoping the Dr. King would be here as well. So I'm going to ask, well, we do ladies first. Dr. King, would you please give us a little introduction, and then we'll go to Dr. Garraway.
So I'm Seneca King, and I currently reside in Boston. I'm from Barbados, but residing in Boston. And I'm a teacher, and I enjoy my job. I enjoy my spiritual life as well with my church, and I'm active in my community as well.
Thank you, Dr. King. Dr. Garraway?
Praise God. I'm Gavin Garraway, and I'm the senior pastor of Glory Church in St. James. I've been pastoring now for 36 years, come the 25th of last month. And I'm a father, grandfather. I've actually had 3 sons, 3 grandsons, and finally I got a granddaughter. I finally have a princess in my in my lineage. So I'm really interested in this particular topic. I've seen my mother go to sleep. I've seen my father go to sleep. I've lost 3 brothers. And of course, as a pastor, had members and family of members, etc. And ever so often I get to see some of the problems that exist in this particular arena. Years ago, I was introduced by one of the top registered nurses in the area of geriatric care, just to get around them, just to get some idea of it. And so I may not be an expert in the area, but I think I have some things to offer. I myself also am now heading to 60. So I'm getting up there and my friends are around there. So I'm beginning to see and take note of things that are going on. So this topic I want to share, but I also want to learn in this particular topic. God bless you.
Thank you, Bishop Garraway. So we have 3 questions for us to discuss this evening. And for the first one, I want to quote something that Shakespeare, we all have all known or heard of Shakespeare, has said. All right, hopefully I could express it the way it's written, right? According to Shakespeare, last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Sans, for those of you who don't know what that means, it means
Without.
we're losing, without, right? We're losing our teeth, we're losing our eyes, we're losing our taste, everything. At what stage in life should one begin preparing for the last scene and your reasons for why? I'm going to begin with you, Bishop Garraway.
Okay. Well, first begin again. Let me just say it's very thoughtful. This particular topic. Again, Pastor Henry, you continue to shine in this particular arena to deal with relevant scenarios as well as all you eminent ministers. But let me just say there's one guy, I think he was actually Mohammed, strange enough, who wrote the book. I can't remember the name of the book now, but he said, "Would start with the end in mind." Start with the end in mind. And I think as quickly as a person can get a sense of consciousness of the various things, because while people may tell you it doesn't hit your consciousness. Sometimes it might be when you start getting your first ache, your first pain, you've met your parents. Now something many a time brings us into that reality. Close friend's parents died or something like that. And but as quickly as possible, it's like if one is preparing for retirement, they tell you, having come from the insurance industry, if you saved from 20 to 30 and don't add anything, you would have, and then go back and check your money at age 65 at the same rate from somebody who starts off at 35 and puts money all the way to 65, you will actually have more money saved up based upon the law of interest. So that the earlier you start off, it's better for you. One thing about life is that recently I heard somebody said something and it made me think about the process that if you try to turn a cruise ship too quickly, it will actually sink. So that there's some things in our life, if you don't catch it early, it's harder to catch. So if you recognize that you might have a tendency towards high blood pressure or any of these lifestyle diseases and you start dealing with it earlier, then what happens is that you are less likely to have it become a chronic something in your life. But if you wait older, then it takes much more time to actually deal with the issue. So the earlier somebody catches whatever it is, and again, there are different things, and I guess eventually we'll come to maybe seek to identify those things, because I've been able to identify at least 7 issues that comes with aging that a person needs to consider. And I guess we'll touch that eventually. God bless you.
Dr. King, please unmute.
So I'm in agreement with Dr. Garraway. I look at life this way. You're already born to die. From the time you come into the world, you're dying. And, the good book tells us we have an appointment with death, every one of us. And you see sometimes babies die, as well as young people die, old people die, middle-aged people die. It's like the lines on a tree. Some drop off as soon as they come on, and some drop off, midway, and so forth and so on. So for me, planning for old age should begin as soon as one is consciously aware of oneself and has the ability to think about life, in a reflective way. So I would say even parents really should be preparing their children for not only life, but for death from the very beginning, because as Dr. Garvey said, habits of life are formed from the day a child comes into the world and starts to live. Habits of life are formed. So I feel I'm one that believes even with management of one's health, management of one's money, and so on, parents need to establish those routines from early, as long as the parents are capable and are well informed. And if they are not well informed, they should seek to be well informed so that they can set good habits astir in their children from early. And you will see that many of the diseases that we tend to suffer from in older years, the foundation was laid back in your very infant years. So again, Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 22:3 that says, the prudent man sees danger coming and learns how to avoid it, while the foolish man continues doing what he's doing and it's punished for his actions. So as soon as you can, you're aware of yourself, you need to start preparing for your end. Not that you let it govern you and you lead a morose life just thinking about death, death, death. No. But in the midst of life, there is death. There's always that possibility. So you always want to plan prudently with that in mind.
And it's such a hard concept. Dr. Gary, I think it's Stephen Covey who said, begin with the end in mind, right?
Yeah.
And but it's such a hard concept for human beings to grasp because, when you're young, you think you're going to live forever. You have all this life in front of you, and you don't think about planning for later in life or the end of life. And as Dr. Garraway said, if we begin early, we maximize, our potential, right? If the later we begin, the worse it is. But it's such a hard concept for us to grasp. The thing that we're born to die, or we have an appointment with death. We don't even want to think about that because it's not something that we are trained to consider. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into the second question because I think we have lots to unpack here. Are there simple daily habits that can help maintain a healthier lifestyle as one ages? And can you share or explain at least one of those habits, or however many you want to dive into? I think we have a little time. Can you really share or explain those habits so that those younger people on the who are listening and tuning in today can begin to grasp the importance of focusing on what those habits might be so they can start early? Back to you, Dr. Garraway.
Okay. Let me see. Let me just say this. I know right now we're dealing with the health side. And, as I said, there are at least 7 different things I've been able to identify that you need to look at. And I'll come back to deal with those things, I guess, hopefully, if not this program, another one. But when it comes to the health area, one guy made it very simple for us when he mentioned what is called the 7 pillars of health. So what you call them, the pillars of health. So the basic pillars of health has to do with nutrition, supplementation, because sometimes there's failure in the nutrition, hydration, exercise, sleep, stress management, and I guess for one of a better thing, maybe human interaction. Now, there may be others I'm missing there, but those are at least some basic things that we need to have to help us get healthy. And therefore, we need to be looking at them. Now, what we don't recognize is that loneliness is a very powerful killer. According to the English health system, they said every day a man is single after the age of 50 is equivalent to him smoking 13 cigarettes. So So singleness could kill. I'm telling you. And I think we need to let the brothers know that, because some of them think these days brothers are becoming prima donnas. You know, they're over checking before they get married these days. And they don't realize that being single is actually putting yourself at peril. When God said it was not good for man to be alone, the scientists have now been able to translate that into reality. And while the specific study I went into didn't go into all the details as to why is that, the fact that we were not created, we are created to be social creatures. And therefore, it's extremely important that we must now start seeing loneliness as actually a threat to health, especially for men. So those are some of the things.
So we want to unpack some of those, because nutrition we understand.
Yes.
Exercise, even though some of us don't like to engage. We understand that part, definitely. The human interaction piece, I would like you to spend a little more time on that.
Yeah, that's the area with loneliness. That loneliness itself now is beginning to be judged as a human, as a threat to humanity, in particularly men. I don't know whether I don't know how loneliness impacts upon women, but I don't know, they seem to be able to handle it better than men. And the Bible did say, God says, not good for man to be alone. In fact, when a woman is around a man, he tends to eat healthier, live healthier. He's reminded, he's more likely to go to the doctor. Those are just some of the common factors. And then, of course, maybe even eat better, I presume. I've been living bachelor for the last 3 weeks. My wife is back in Eswatini doing some things. And I can't keep up with this. Every morning when I wake up now, she gives me mixed fruits with yogurt. It's difficult. I'm looking for whatever there is, egg, bread. Thank God she's coming back in on Wednesday night, so I'll go back to the healthier routine. So, and women, I think, tend to be generally wiser and more in touch with their bodies. And I don't know whether it's because of their natural processes; it's a little more sophisticated than the males. But that thing of man being alone, man on his own or men with men, they tend to be more animalistic. Women have a way of civilizing men and bringing out a different level in that man. And I hope I don't sound sexist in any way there, But in particular, when it comes to that area of marriage, I'm thinking about here, and I'm putting a plug for encouraging our young men to get married. We need to see, understand the financial factors and there are other factors, etc. But we need to figure out ways in our local church, so we need to encourage from the pulpit the formation of families and the preparation to be able to handle families in a proper manner. So God puts his solitary in family, the Bible tells us in the book of Psalm 68. So that is the standard of God. Now, there are very few people, I believe, who have the gift of singleness. And the gift of singleness is not that you hate women or you hate men. That's not a gift. That's unforgiveness, and you need healing.
Thank you, Dr. Gary. And Dr. Seneca, I'm going to come to you next, but I want to encourage the participants to put your questions in the chat. If you have a burning question that you'd like to ask, you can raise your hand. We'll call on you to ask your question, but please put your questions in the chat or your comments, so we will address those as we go along. Dr. King?
Okay, so I want to put up a valiant defense for single cat ladies, right? I want to say, though, in all seriousness, singleness does not necessarily equate to loneliness. And I thank God that Jesus Christ, he was a single man all his life, but he was not a lonely man, right? So there's a big difference between being single and being lonely. Single people need not be lonely. I have been happily single for many years, and I'm not a childless cat lady either. But I have a lot of friends, and I always feel surrounded and supported, not only by family, but by a network of friends, colleagues at work. It's amazing the number of interactions that you can have, even when single. For me, singleness just means that I don't go to bed beside someone every night. That's all that means. But in my daily interactions, I have so much joy in interacting with people, um, whether they're family members, whether they're my students, I teach young adults. I have a ball with them. And I think one of the reasons I still work, I could be retired, but I still go to work because I enjoy my interactions with my colleagues and my students and going to seminars, volunteering, giving Bible studies. So singleness does not necessarily mean loneliness. There are many ways that you can have such an active life, because just think about it. At some point, even if you're married, you're going to become single again, because either your spouse may die before you. And if that is so, you then become single again. But you're not going to let that make you not pay attention to your mental health, your social health, your physical health, if you have a network of friends that you are supported by. So what psychologists recommend, even if you're single, that you decisively and decidedly look for ways to socialize with other people. And there are many ways that you can do that. There are so many clubs that you can join: fitness clubs, hobby clubs, traveling clubs, um, volunteering in your community and so on. That keeps you so actively involved with other people that you don't have time to be depressed and lonely.
Well, thank you for
But I
taking.
hear you, Dr. Garraway, about, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be childless and spouseless, but unfortunately, in life, some of us will be. And that should not be the end of your joy. You can find a lot of joy in being single.
All right. Well, Dr. Garraway said something about the fact that the loneliness concern is more pertinent to men, whereas women, the research he looked at did not say that women are more plagued by loneliness as men are. And I wonder if it's because women are naturally more social. By nature, they've always thrived on social interactions, having friends and groups of other women that they communicate with on a regular basis. If that has something to do with the fact that that loneliness concern is not as pertinent to women as it is to men.
Yeah, let me say, maybe it could be this was this was put out by the English Health Service, the National Health Service of England. And I met it more than once in my studies, for years now. And I was single for most of the last 20-something years of life. I was single, and I can tell you the difference of having a wife around. She's more conscious. She gets me to the doctor. She will get me, certain things. Make me more committed. She will hold me more. She's an accountability partner for me. I think because men tend to be more stubborn in the area, but in certain areas, health is one. Yes, another thing, what I noticed as a pastor over years, that if a woman comes to church, she will just start connecting to people just like that. If a man comes into your church, he will stand up there, look around for a little while. One person might shake his hand, and after that, he's gone. He's not coming back. And that's one of the things that many times with churches, you have to pay special emphasis on when men visit your church. Try to get your men to connect with that person as quickly as possible, because men tend not to have that social wisdom of women. Women tend to be more, I'm not saying it's there with every woman, but women in general tend to be more able in this particular arena of connectivity. Very, very important, etc., etc.
And
So this, go ahead, please.
yes, and the other you mentioned that people who are who are single 50 years of age and up
Yes,
tend to fall
men.
into a lot of those pitfalls, right? In psychology today, it says that as people progress through their life, through midlife and into old age, and especially if they pass the 40, 50 mark and they approach 60s and they get into the 80s, and they tend to be happier and healthier with their lives because they've learned how to engage in some of those activities and opportunities that Dr. King spoke about. They become more involved in those clubs and those and those scenarios that she talked about, and they tend to become more happier with their lives than people who've been married for a long time and who get to that point in their married life where things are stagnant and where they begin to function really as roommates and not partners. What do you say about that, Dr. Garraway?
I didn't catch piece of it. Say it again.
That
People.
people who 40s and up into their 80s, if they live a single life, they become happier as they get older because they've learned how to participate in social activities, social networks, things that address their health, and some of the clubs that Dr. King was talking about. As they become more involved in those opportunities, they tend to be more content with their aged life, whereas married people who as they get who live long into their marriage and become a little more stagnant in their relationship, and where they lived more like roommates instead of lovers and partners, they tend to become lonely even within the marriage. What any views on that?
Oh, that you leave me stumped there, and I'll be thinking. I don't think I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer that question. Dr. King, maybe.
Okay, Dr. King, go
Let
ahead
me
and
see
jump
if
in
I
there.
can help out a little bit. I
Yes.
think what Dr. Neff is saying is that there are, and psychologists tell us that there are lots of lonely married people.
Okay.
That is an even worse kind of loneliness than being single.
Okay.
Because just operating with you and your partner is not sufficient, really, to lead a good, healthy mental health lifestyle. Even as couples, married couples still need a broader realm of socialization and social interactions to feel fulfilled. And that does not mean hopping to every party and stuff like that. But what they're saying is that even happily married couples, in order to maintain that happiness, they also need to broaden their circles of interaction. And one of the best ways that couples can perhaps do this is, especially in their older years when they become empty nesters, is to join clubs with other empty nesters, travel clubs, garden clubs, walking clubs, fitness clubs, etc. Volunteering in your community at the food pantries or whatever else, soup kitchens, etc., etc. If couples do these things together, they can also increase their happiness quotient, just as single people who are actively involved in interactions with other people increase their happiness quotient as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
you can be married and still lonely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now for me, okay. Again, I guess and I love, and I guess that's why we have different people on the program to bring out different parts. Because for me, picking a wife, it was purpose oriented. So my wife is a vital part of my life. You understand? She takes things and takes it to the next level. You understand? So my wife is somebody who is to me is of extreme importance to me. In terms of even that's the reason I picked her, you know. She correlates to my purpose. So there's always things to talk about. I always have questions with her. I want to hear her standpoint. I want to hear her viewpoint, etc., and things like that. And some things I think she does much better than me also, you know. So, but I do understand now what you're saying. There are people who are locked into relationships where that doesn't exist. So therefore, they will have the problem of loneliness in the relationship, etc. I think Pastor Henry was saying that the question that he asked, that was actually asked, was the habits that one can engage in to maintain a healthier lifestyle. And I think once you identify, let me just say, once you identify what your pillars of health are, then what happened is that for me, my wife is an accountability partner as far as some of these things are concerned. Some of these things, like I said, nutrition, supplementation, hydration, exercise, sleep, stress management, human interaction. And I'm certain they're not all. What happens is that, you know, these are things that you can discuss with each other. If you don't have a spouse, you know, maybe a doctor, if you have a good doctor, a holistic doctor. But at some point in time, you need to understand that these are things that you need to consider because these things affect your life. You know, some people don't realize the quality of sleep that they have or not having. It might be, sometimes you're forgetting things. And it's not because you have dementia or Alzheimer's, it's because you're not sleeping. You know, sometimes it's as simple as that, you know. Again, sometimes maybe lack of hydration, etc. So I think what happens is that the more, and you know what things I encourage, I know it may be a little sexist, but I encourage my ladies in church to learn nutrition because in our society, women tend to be in charge of the food of the family most of the times. And like in Trinidad and Tobago, they tell you the average age of a woman's life is 73. The average age of the man is 68. So women normally take 5 years for themselves. And I think part of the problem again too is that we inherit certain food traits that is bringing certain non-contagious diseases or lifestyle diseases, I think they call them. And therefore, I think we need to be looking into those things. Again, while traditionally, I think the Seventh-day Adventist brethren have been very good, but they're better things, probably the best as far as all the Christian denominations, as far as looking into life, health lifestyle. I think every Christian and church need to understand the importance of doing that thing. And if the pastor cannot do it himself, then he needs to bring people in to be able to deal with some of those issues that help with longevity, and not just longevity, but healthy lifestyles, etc.
And if I may jump in here, Dr. Neff,
Yes.
Eating healthy is so easy to do in today's world. The young people will be familiar with different apps. You have apps that there's one called myhealthyplate.com, I think it is, where you can get the app from the App Store and download it on your cell phone. And it gives you a quiz. You put in your age, your gender, I think your height, and then they will ask you about what you currently eat and so on. And based on all that information, that app calculates for you what your daily calorie intake needs to be to maintain a good, a healthy lifestyle, you know, so that you wouldn't be overweight and so on. And then they go on further to give you the foods that you can eat to get the amount of carbs and proteins and vitamins and so forth and so on a daily basis. So wives that or people who don't know how to prepare healthy and nutritious meals, they've made it easy in so many different ways with the apps. You can order food daily. Here in the United States, you can order your meals daily and they're delivered fresh in a box and you just have to eat. But apart from that, you can, there's so many programs and and again, the apps online that you can use to help yourself maintain a good and healthy diet. And parents need to consult those too to plan nutritious meals for their children. And even they will even give you nutritious meals on a tight budget. Things that the God is so good. He puts food all around us. As I'm an avid gardener, and each year I learn more about foods that are growing right around us in the wild. So I've learned, what edible flowers I have in my garden. I didn't even know that you could drink marigold tea. I learned that this year. So there's so many different foods right around us. So it's just a matter of finding out and practicing to use the foods that we have growing locally around us and growing free too.
Thank you, Dr. King. So eating healthy is definitely one of those habits. And there's a question in the chat that states, how can I eat healthy, excuse me, when we are given unwholesome food? Even the vegetables are full of chemicals.
Grow your own food.
Be choosy with your garden, with your farmer that you buy from. That's one way. Another way too, because you can actually know. Some people, you can, if you're close to, like, okay, like I have a farm in my church, so I know how they do things. So now the truth is, I'm not always buy my stuff from him, but once he has stuff, and I know about it because I know he does not use certain chemicals. And those chemical things are extremely important now for men because a lot of the fertilizers actually are heavy with estrogen, which are creating problems for men, which is why they're telling us that the sperm count of so many men now in our part of the world is so low, and all these different things, So I think what Dr. King said there too about becoming a self-gardener, using it, your kitchen garden, your box garden, is a real important thing because you know that you ain't poisoning yourself.
Correct.
Correct. You're not poisoning yourself. So that's a real important thing. And that actually helps. Talking about that, I need to go water my wife's garden.
And for mental health, habits that you can practice are things like as you age, reading good books, making it a practice to read a chapter, maybe from not only the Bible, but outside of the Bible, reading good, wholesome books. And also doing crossword puzzles, doing playing games that call for mental stimulation and thought. Daily exercising. And, we can fool ourselves into thinking that I don't have time to exercise. I'm so busy. But think about it. What some colleagues and I have recently started doing at work. We get an hour for lunch. We can walk in that hour. So we eat quickly or eat, for the first 20 minutes and then go walk for a good half an hour to 40 minutes and come back. And luckily for us, there are public gardens nearby. So we can walk in the gardens and, get the fresh air and so forth and so on. So try to, even if you can't go to the gym in the evening or the morning, try walking during your lunchtime. Parking your car far away from the entrance to your building as far as you can get, still within the parking lot, and walking to the building, taking the stairs rather than the elevators and so forth and so on. So there's simple things that you can do to try to maintain good health. I see my brother-in-law when I'm in Barbados, he walks around in the yard like probably 1,000 times, just around and around and around to get in his steps and exercise. So I guess, that's another way of that you could do it. But one thing I've learned, all the nutritionists, the psychologists, the physicians, they're telling you, if you want to live to a good old age, keep moving. The moment you stop moving, you're going to die.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, put one foot in front of the other and keep moving.
I don't know if you have malls where you are. Yes,
Yeah.
everywhere. But I find people around me, they tend to go to the malls and just walk around. Yeah, we have big indoor malls, and just walk. Just walk sometimes from floor to floor. It's air conditioned, it's safe, but that movement.
Dr. Zeph, are you saying that window shopping and shopping for women is a pillar of health?
Yes, that's exercise. It's physical exercise as well as it's mental exercise. Which color do you think would look good on me? Oh man, just the thought process of trying to determine whether or not you want to buy an item or try it on. You're using your mental acuity to do those things. So yes, shopping or window shopping, whatever.
Learning
Is
a new
exercise.
learning a new language.
Yeah.
Some of us think that once we have graduated from college, we're done. But you can keep on learning throughout your lifetime.
Absolutely.
So, find a class to go to. When I was in Barbados, every term I would go and learn something. I went to a plumbing class, I went to a woodwork class, I went to a hat making class.
Oh, one day you don't need a husband.
I was always trying to do something. And even now, I challenge myself. I have my PhD, but I'm always willing to learn something. And I
Absolutely.
teach multilingual students, so every day I'm learning some new language. The only one I can't seem to wrap my head around yet is the Vietnamese language. But I speak Spanish, I speak French, I speak Haitian Creole. I try everything because I want to be able to teach my students well. So I teach them, they teach me. And that keeps my brain going.
Absolutely.
Playing a musical instrument.
Mhm.
What's wrong with at 60 you pick up the guitar and go to guitar lessons, or piano lessons or something? Always keep learning, striving to
Mhm.
learn something new. Keeps your brain
Lifelong
functioning.
learning. It's called
Mhm.
lifelong learning. Learning never ends, right?
Never ends.
And it's important that we continue that. Now, something that I haven't heard you mention, and perhaps Dr. Gavin did when he gave that list, is sleep. I think you did mention sleep.
Yeah, sleep
Sleep.
prevention.
Let's talk about the importance of sleep in maintaining health and well-being, especially as you age. Because when I was a younger person, especially in college, staying up all night doing assignments and, was easy for me, right? But as I get older, it's not as easy to do that. And, your body begins to tell you, oh, wait a minute, I'm missing something. Why is sleep so necessary to health and well-being?
I don't want to get too spiritual with it, but I believe sleep is a gift from God. When God said it was not good for man to be alone and he put man to sleep, there were two things that God actually did. One, he took the rib and made the woman, but he also gave men the gift of dreams. It is in the realm of REM sleep when the mind is literally dumps certain things and take on new information. We can go to the place where the book of Job chapter 33 says that God speaks to us in the realm of deep sleep, where God is able to add a sense of purpose and different things. In the natural realm, they tell us that you will survive the lack of food much longer than sleep deprivation. Therefore, sleep is really an important part as far as turning over your whole psyche as well as your physical systems. And sometimes it's amazing that many times when we think it's so many other things, I notice that when people tend to get older, they tend to have a problem. Many times the devil seems to fight their sleeping realities, but once you can get that sleep in, it will start healing your body. It starts healing your mind. When it has people who don't sleep properly will find themselves fighting things like anxiety, depression, all sorts of mental things seem to enter your life that are contrary to well-being. And therefore it's a real important thing to actually get your sleep. And I think people tend not to take it take it seriously. But for me, I'm learning to to look at it much more seriously for myself personally, I must say that. And sleep helps you, to recover yourself. And it's extraordinarily important. Extraordinarily important.
I had no idea of the significance of sleep until I had a concussion, was in a car accident, had a severe concussion. And the doctor didn't give me any medication or a shot or anything to take. But she said that I need to sleep.
Wow.
And for someone who is a late night person and an early morning person, there's very little sleep in between late night and early morning. So my body functioned on very little sleep. And with the concussion, I slept for hours.
Wow.
Because of the brain injury, you need sleep for the brain to heal. So I would sleep for 12 hours sometimes. And that's what helps the brain to heal. So when you mention that sleep is good for healing, it helps to repair and grow tissue. It helps to strengthen the immune system. It restores your energy. It builds your bone and muscle. It lowers chemicals that cause inflammation. Sleep is necessary for maintaining health and well-being. And it's something that we really need to teach each other about, because no one ever taught me that. I didn't even learn it in school.
Wow.
Sleep is necessary for the body.
Yeah.
Dr. King?
Yes, there are two things on that list that are important: sleep and hydration.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get it, if you're not properly hydrated, you will find that you can't sleep. Even if you go to bed, you will not sleep well. The brain need and the body, your body is like 80% water.
Mm-hmm.
So you need enough water to keep those cells well hydrated and so on. And while you get a lot of water, in the fruits and the veggies and so on, you still need to drink water, good old plain water, to keep your cells well hydrated and functioning properly. And when it comes to sleep, I can tell you, like you, Dr. Neff, when I was younger, I could beat books all night and wake up the next morning early and go to work and do whatever and still function. The older you get, you realize that it doesn't work that well. And so what I have to do, what I've trained myself to do now is, if I have something pressing to do, I will come home and I will nap first. I will come in, get an hour or two of rest, then get up, work on that project or whatever it is, and then knock off again and go back to sleep. But I find I need a sustained period of at least 6 hours straight sleeping to function. And 6 hours is insufficient, by the way. It is recommended that older people should sleep for a good 8 hours, just like a younger person. You need a good solid 8 hours of rest to function properly. But getting that nap and getting back up helps a lot. And getting,
I'm sorry.
sufficient amount of water in.
So water, hydration, and sleep.
And sleep,
Another thing
very
that I
important.
think was on your list is managing stress.
Stress management. And you have to, I think each person has to kind of learn themselves. I'm not an expert in this area again, but you have to figure out what are the things that help you to recover. I think Oprah used to call it recovering your spirit. Not used to call it, but you have to look at it like that. But in the sense of, you have to figure out how you rest. Some people, Jesus had a way that he took his disciples through the garden over and over. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane. Some people, they actually get a lot of healing when they get around green. But, they talk about earthing, etc. And I don't want to start getting seemingly crazy, but these are actual things that they've gone into. Things like where you learn to divest yourself of the stress that takes up, especially when your job is a high stress job. And you have to know that, or you're going through periods of high stress. sometimes just getting around by the sea and hearing this. When I hear seawater, it just brings a, it helps, take away stress from me. And the more people learn about themselves and they begin to do that, it will help them. Because when stress comes on, it makes you act in ways that are contrary. It builds size around your midsection. It causes cortisol, that causes fat to stay around, which goes around your organs and all these things. Oh Lord, I hate to hear these things. But but again, stress management is a really, really important part of life. And I think sometimes just being with good friends, learning to relax again, it all helps, Worship helps, good music sometimes helps you to come to that place of relaxation. And therefore, people sometimes don't see these things. When you're young, your body tends to let you escape with a lot of things. And you get older, then you pay the piper. So therefore, the key is trying to learn about these things as early as possible. If you could push the learning of these things lower down in your life, then it's much easier then to begin to do a proper practice rather than all of a sudden at 6:30, the doctor tell you, boy, this wrong, that wrong. But I'm telling you the amount of things wrong you're thinking about. Maybe if I could transfer my head into somebody else's body. So the more we pass all this information to younger folks, the more they can begin to take and change their direction slowly. But when you're young, sometimes they say they burn the candle on both ends. Go to sleep late, wake up early, and their body can recover quickly. But as you start getting older, the piper will ask for his price. Right.
Absolutely. I think someone shared in the chat that the liver is believed to be cleansing between 1:30 and 3 a.m.
Wow.
So
Okay.
if you're not asleep during that time, that cleansing process does not take place.
Okay.
And we need our liver to cleanse and rejuvenate itself. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A word that I hear, a buzzword that I hear a lot nowadays is self-care.
Yeah.
And that's the new word that speaks to all the things that we've been talking about, whether it's nutrition, um, 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 taking time to read your Bible and meditate and prayer and exercise and manage your stress and all that stuff falls under that umbrella of self-care. And I saw a statement recently that says self-care isn't selfish. It's a way of taking care of yourself so you can be your best self for others, for your families. And I often tell my parents when we talk about self-care in my parenting classes that you cannot fill from an empty vessel. If your vessel is empty, you cannot fill up the vessel of your children, right? So you have to practice self-care in order to be able to be a good parent and to be a good partner and to be able to function in life. Okay, I'm going to go on to the third question. And I think we touched on it a little bit ago. I know Dr. King spoke to this a little bit ago. So let's see if we can unpack this a little more. And it has to do with mental alertness. As mental alertness tends to decline with age, what steps can one take to maintain strong mental fitness in later years? Because more and more, of course, we're hearing about people who are plagued with dementia and early Alzheimer's and all that. It was very distressing to me recently to see a young woman in her 50s who was deep in the throes of Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And that it used to be, you think of somebody who's really old in life who would have that. But even younger people are experiencing diminished capacity when it comes to their mental alertness. What steps can one take to maintain strong mental fitness in later years? Dr. King?
You said 50, but there are people in their 30s and 40s who are experiencing dementia, early throes of dementia.
Wow.
And a lot has to do with the diet, but also that we just touched on, lack of sleep, poor dietary habits, and of course, it's also some can be biologically based, so we can't rule that out. But habits that we can do to strengthen our mind, I mentioned some of them earlier. reading good, wholesome literature. And not only reading, but journaling as you read. You know, what are the lessons I'm learning from what I'm reading? Also, doing crossword puzzles. And there's some online games, they're called mind testers, that you can play for, 15 minutes or so. Some of them are simple, like they show you pictures and they show you a picture for like 10 seconds, and then they will ask you questions about that picture to see how many details you can remember and so on. That helps to, keep your brain ticking. Also, again, volunteering in your communities. There's a certain our bodies, as we well know, release endorphins, the happiness hormones, when we are doing good things and wholesome things. And there's nothing like volunteering and meeting the needs of other people in your community that creates some of those endorphins. And also, again, joining a class, learning something new, meeting new friends, building new networks. And so we are given so much, given Bible studies, studying the Bible for yourself. All these are things that can strengthen our minds and keep our mental health going, because not especially if some of the activities you participate in involve other people. You're not only learning something new, but you are also building a new network of interactions with friends, and that helps to keep you mentally stimulated and growing mentally. Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree very much with what Dr. King says there. Your association, just developing consciousness in this particular arena is so important. Again, the thing about it dovetails back into things like sleep, managing stress, mindful exercise, eliminating distractions. Some people talk about the power of music. When God gave us worship, yes, it does benefit God, but the music also helps them to. When Saul was under difficulty, they brought a musician around. So there's a power of music as far as that is concerned. But again, what I love things like Sudoku. I like the maths part. It helps me to keep alert. I like those numbers, working with numbers. And so a person, again, must learn what, everything doesn't seem to work with everybody, but you start testing the factors and then you start working what works with you. And you quickly eliminate that which is giving you no benefit. Also, there's some supplements that help with brain food, memory, ginkgo biloba, different types of different thing. Again, some people it works for, some people it doesn't seem to do them the same. So I think life is quickly about learning what benefits you in a particular arena. We live in the information age, and therefore, as you said, there's a need for self-care. There's a lot of accusations against the medical profession now that they're more involved in popping pills and making money. And I'm not trying to offend the doctor online or anything like that. But we live in a time now where we need to, if the doctor is telling you something and it's not adding up, we need to challenge the status quo. I went to a dentist because I had an abscess, and the doctor told me do a root canal. And I said, but that's not making sense. Treat the abscess. And I went to a senior doctor, a man who's been med. He said, well, what the dentist said not making sense. And then he treated it and it disappeared. I didn't have any need for any root canal. The dentist seemed to be wanting to make money off of me.
Funny.
Sorry to say, And again, I'm not planting any stones at all dentists here, but we need to come to the point where long ago when the doctor just tell you, take this. Well, doctor, why? What does this do? And then you go home and do some research on the matter and hear what some of the things are, because when Bill Gates moved from computer to medicals to medicine, like some people say it was because he see the money in it, and I'm not going to get involved with that. It's a legend, right? I don't want anybody to sue me or anything like that. but we need to come to the point where we understand we have a responsibility with God to manage our bodies, our mindset, our spiritual life, our souls, etc. Coming to the place where we understand what is beneficial to us. The father of medicine says, and he talked about that food be a medicine, and then later people said, well, if food is not your medicine, then your medicine will become your food. And so nutrition is really important, but then so too is all these other things, supplementation, if you're not getting the right nutrition. One thing that we left out here too, well, I guess it comes back depending upon when you do exercise, sunlight. Sunlight is one of the big problems, again, to that when men don't get that vitamin D. And one of the reasons why so many Black men are open to having prostate problems, because we're not getting sunlight, etc. And because of the fact that, we are so many Black men across on this side of the world, not in Trinidad in particular, but it's in North America, where there's 42 million Blacks. And because they stay out of the sun, it opens them up. You understand? And the person with higher level melanin, he needs to spend more time in the sun to be able to activate the vitamin D, or like me, I supplement for it. You understand? And it's a real important thing as far as determining certain diseases that happen. All right, because some diseases actually seem to follow the patterns of race and things like that. So we need to be careful concerning that. So sunlight is one of the pillars I left out.
Yes.
So,
That's awesome.
okay.
Thank you. There's a comment and question in the chat. Christians stress themselves unnecessarily. We behave like the disciples of Jesus in the boat. When the storm arises and Jesus is sleeping, why not grab a blanket and go to sleep with him? Why battle with the storm that you cannot control? Wow, that is such a profound question. And I love it because I was reading something recently from a researcher who bears the same last name as I do, Neff, it's not me, who talked about, when children are growing up, we spend so much time teaching them how to build their self-esteem. And we talk about self-control, but we don't speak about self-compassion. And as they get older, we find that we build these awesome self-esteem and self and all that stuff, that people tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves, right? When they don't function in the way the world expects them or the way they expect themselves to. So we do not practice self-compassion. And self-compassion involves being kind to ourselves when life goes awry, or when you notice something about ourselves that we don't like. So instead of being harsh and critical of ourselves, practice self-compassion. And the researcher Neff said that people who are compassionate to themselves are less likely to be depressed, anxious, and stressed. So we have to learn to give ourselves grace and not place so much stress on ourselves that we become anxious like the disciples did in the boat with Jesus, and disturb his sleep while he was resting. I'm going to ask.
also
You're
like-
supposed to grow in faith. That's really growing in faith, because I don't know what I would have done. Well, I guess we're supposed to grow spiritually, physically, and even financially. We're supposed to grow. I think that maybe as later as we go into the program and we look at other issues for the personal age, we're going to find it, because something that's a stress area with the finances, the mobility, the ambulatory realities, and all those things like that. So, but yes, it does require us to grow in faith in God and to understand that stop stressing about the things that we cannot change. The prayer of serenity, and wisdom. Lord, teach me to change the things that I cannot, accept things, change the things that I can, accept things that I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. Etc.
In the chat, Sister Barris said the study has shown or proven that once the human body is alkaline, the human body is alkaline, and no acidic cancer or sickness can live in the human body if we maintain the level of alkalinity. So really good information. So I'm going to ask the panelists to get ready with your closing remarks.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to give an opportunity to the attendees. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to put in the chat, feel free to do so. And we will certainly try our best to address those questions. Dr. Garraway, your closing remarks?
Okay. Let me just say this. Life is fragile, handled with prayer. And the thing about it is that, but however, while we, as Dr. King said, I hope I got the right name, we are all born to die. The thing is, as we grow older, we know that day is coming quicker. But the point is, there's some things, however, that we can do to cooperate with God that we might have long life. You know, yes, God will help us, but He will help us. We need to work along with Him and accept responsibility. So we need to grow in the area of consciousness of that which will do better for us. And then not just for ourselves, but share it with other people, you know, share your discoveries, share the things, and make it part of your regular discussions. And sometimes in sharing with others, you might realize and learn things that you yourself haven't learned as others share with you the things that they have discovered. God bless you.
Thank you.
And in summary, to the question of when should you start preparing for your older years, I'd like to stress that since we are born to die from the beginning, parents should help children set healthy habits, you know, as they grow. And those healthy habits are not just food and diet, but exercise, management of money, socialization, etc., etc. And psychologists have found that people who age well are those who are adaptable, open to adventure, and have good socialization supports around them, and also those who have good spiritual well-being, like going to church regularly, but not just going to church, but actively participating in your church community. And all these things will help to keep you healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Amen.
And since we're on the trend of understanding that we are born to die and that we have an appointment with death, I would suggest that we listen to our bodies. You know, if you feel something is off, something doesn't feel right, check it out. You know, don't hold on to it until it's too late. Listen to your body and make sure that you get the health care that you need. As you practice your self-care, you also need to practice good health care and go to your doctor's appointments. You don't have to have a partner to make sure you make good appointment. Men and women, we have specific things that we need to go to doctors for, especially at certain ages in our lives. And we need to make sure we make those appointments and get those things checked out and addressed. So I want to encourage you to come back next week because we will talk about preparing for Senior Years Part 2. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today for Real Talk Family Live, brought to you by Faith Tabernacle in Phoenix and a group of Caribbean evangelical ministers led by Pastor Anthony Henry, who will now take the floor. Pastor Henry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neff. What a powerful discussion. What a great start to this last quarter. My internet is falling off, so I'm going to be very brief. We look forward to seeing you next week, God's willing. I learned to start preparing for old age when I read that scripture. Thou shalt keep him. No.
Remember.
The Lord will renew your youth like the eagles. And when I read that scripture, I realized that I had to believe it and put it to practice in my youth. Because if the Lord renew your old age or renew you in your old age, you could only get old. He renews your youth, you stay young into your old age. So daily he is renewing my youth. I'm not old as yet. I'm 74, but I am not old as yet. My youthfulness still exists. And I believe, like the gentleman that I met at the elections office in Barbados a few years ago, he was 10 years older than me, but we were looking just alike. So I think we both believe the same thing. So thank you for joining us. Oh, but before we go, to Pastor Roger Constantine for joining us this evening. Happy to have you. And the team extends our deepest condolences on the passing of your mom, or in our prayers and in our thoughts. And I see Pastor Samuel is there also. Lord bless you, Pastor Samuel. Have a good night, everybody, and sleep well.
Thanks.
And as
Good.
Yvonne reminds us,
everyone.
begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
Copy.
There we go.
Yeah. God bless you.
God bless.